So my son, Jools, was 14, and in April 22, out of the blue, he took his own life. The coroner didn't rule it was suicide because they couldn't prove he was in a suicidal mood. But he didn't have any signs of bullying. The police proved there was no bullying at school. There wasn't any particular reason as to why one day he chose to end his life. And my only thing we haven't looked at is social media, and I wonder if that's to blame.
Well, yes, and that's something that you wanted to be able to have access to, but you weren't allowed to, is that right?
No, and that really shocked me as a parent, that as parents I assumed I would have the right to say I want to see what he was looking at. And social media companies have refused, which I don't understand why they wouldn't release that to a bereaved parent to say, let's give you some answers, because otherwise I'm left for the rest of my life not knowing why my precious child isn't here. Yeah,
so you feel it would be important to you to understand a little bit more about what was going on in his head?
I do, and so from my point of view, you know, Jools isn't here, but I think I should have the right to be able to see what he was looking at, even if it's just to rule it out, but I think I should have the right to see, well, what did he search? And the statistics that have been shown recently about what children are watching on social media is horrific. And it has been proven that some children, you know, have been affected, that they have taken their own lives because of social media. And I want to know if that is why my son isn't here.
I wonder what your reaction is to the Education Committee's findings that they're putting out today. They've talked about the benefits of screen time being significantly outweighed by the risks. Would you agree with that when it comes to children?
I think it's very difficult as a parent to monitor how much screen time your children use and or on their devices for. And I don't think it's just phones, though. You know, it's all devices. It's whether it's particularly teenage boys. Jools was into his Xbox. So you've got gaming, you've got computers, you've got screen time. And I do think it is damaging. It's very different from our childhood where we were outside and playing and, you know, it's quite difficult to control that usage.
It is difficult to control that usage, and that's perhaps why the Education Committee is suggesting that the next government should consider a statutory ban on mobile phones in schools and a total ban for smartphones for under 16s. What do you make of that suggestion?
I 100% agree that you do not need a phone in school. You know, if there's a parent, a school can contact reception. I don't understand why a child would need school, which would give them a break from screen times. And I know, you know, Jools wasn't supposed to have his phone on, but he would text me the day and say, what are you doing on your phone? Get off it. You know, and I think they don't need it at school. That should absolutely be banned. I think there's a bigger issue than just banning outright under 16s, because they still have access to other devices. And I think that is a bigger problem, that we need to control what's shown on those devices and social media and other websites that they have access to, that is shocking about what a child can see these days.
How do you introduce those controls, though?
I don't know, with difficulty. I think it's got to come from the social media giants to monitor what is out there. You know, there was a debate in Parliament recently with some very scary statistics about how young children are seeing things on the internet, and that isn't just mobile phones, and that needs to change.
A lot of children, if you ask them, might say, if I don't have my phone, I don't feel connected with my peer group. I'm worried that I will feel isolated and missing out on what everyone else is experiencing. And parents might say, I like my child having a phone because I can keep in touch with them and I know where they are and I feel that they're safe.
Oh, I can picture what Jools would say now if I was telling him I was taking his phone off him. It would be the end of the world. I think you probably need to start it with primary school children now that it's a ban, or a bit like they've done with the vaping, you know, that it's a gradual thing. You can't just go up to 16-year-olds now and take their phones off them, or 15-year-olds. That's not going to work. They'll find another way. But I think a gradual ban from when they're younger, that they get used to it.
That's another thing that was quite interesting about the research that the Education Committee put out. They said 1 in 5 children aged between 3 and 4 have their own phones. 1 in 4 children aged 8, and almost all 12-year-olds. So that's really surprising, isn't it?
They don't need that.
You have a petition that, to try to make sure that people can get access to their children's social media accounts. What happens to that petition, given that we're now running up to an election?
I've got 5 days, so it ends all of a sudden on the 30th of May. It's very ambitious, but I need 85,000 signatures to hit my target, which might give me access then to Jools's information to find out why he died.
OK, well, we wish you well with that, and we really appreciate you coming in. Ms Roome, thanks very much indeed for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.